Welcome to part 3 of 9 exercises to master public speaking. In this video, I won't be showing you how to become a beginner public speaker or an intermediate public speaker. I'll be walking you through what it takes to become an advanced public speaker. Now, this video assumes that you've already watched part 1 and 2, but I will be giving a very quick refresher on what was covered in the previous videos, just so you can have that in the back of your mind as we proceed. In part 1, we covered tonality, so how to sound persuasive and confident. When you give a direction or when you ask for something in a persuasive way, you drop that tone at the end. This is a great deal. I think you should buy that. Not rising, which can imply that you're not confident. This is a great price. You should buy this car. Now, I'm not a car salesman, but anytime you use persuasion, downward is more confident. Next up, tempo. Talking fast versus talking slow to emphasize words. Positive nonverbal body language. It never hurts to smile, open up that body, and eye contact is good. And look in between the eyes if looking at the eyes of someone makes you nervous. In the intermediate exercise series, we looked at vocal release, how when you need to project, if you're not prepared for it and if you haven't practiced it, you might be talking normally now, but then your vocal cords will constrict. So let's say the word hello loudly. You might go hello, hello, and then hello, hello, constrict. So we went over how to project and how to not be constricted. Next up, we talked about how a good storyteller knows to infuse different emotions into their story. Not always positives, not always negatives, but sometimes switch it up. Makes people naturally draw in, lean into what you're saying, makes it more interesting. And then finally, we looked at boring to interesting. So how to take anything boring, make it way more interesting by practicing the drills that we talked about before, and how this is a really good challenge. Because if you can make boring things interesting, then your interesting stories will be even more interesting. Now, let's look over what we're going to be learning today. In this advanced series, we'll be going over body release. In the intermediate series, we looked at vocal release, how to be open up here. But body release is about how when you're speaking, your whole body is loose and why that's important and how to do that. Next up, we will be looking at free association, how to speak on the spot about anything without preparation, because that is so useful. Have you ever thought, what should I say next? You're at a party and you want to be social and you're thinking of what story you can share, but it's like you get that writer's block. Not writing, but I call it speaker's block, where you want to say something, but you just don't know what to say next. So creativity is really powerful to become a powerful speaker. So we'll be looking over how to train that in a non-musical and musical way as well. Look forward to that. And then last but not least, we'll be looking at how trauma plays a role in holding you back when it comes to you being a good communicator and how to work on that. So one thing I've noticed about veteran, excellent public speakers is that they're able to project, able to be confident, talk for a long time, and their body is loose. They're projecting, but their hands aren't tense. They're not going, listen to me, and like tensing up their hand. They're speaking powerfully, maybe don't even need a microphone. And a lot of veteran speakers, if they were speaking while also wiggling their hands, they can still project. Check this out. Hello, yo. I don't need to be tense in my body to project. And this is so important because you might be projecting, but if your body is tense, you're going to fatigue quickly. It's like if you want to give an extended speech for over 2 minutes, it's kind of like a marathon run. And if you're all tensed up, you're going to be so exhausted so quickly. And if you're loose, naturally, you're just more free-flowing. So how do you train that? Well, you can take a word that you're going to project and then also be mindful of keeping your body loose. So you can hold your hand while you're projecting that voice and then try to just keep it loose. So we can use the word ayo. I think that's a good vocal tonation word, even though you could use hello. So start low, ayo, ayo, ayo. And see, that was me doing it without getting tense. But when you first start doing this, you might notice your hand naturally tense up. It's kind of subconscious because you're not used to it. Check this out. Ayo, ayo. So I clenched for a second, and then I realized, oh, I need to release. Ayo, ayo, right? Catch it and then release. Another way you can train this is through DPR, which stands for deep physical relaxation. If you click the video card up above, I did a meditation video where I talked about 8 different types of meditation. And one of these is known as deep physical relaxation, or DPR for short, where you practice mastery over your body, specifically reducing tension in your body. It's kind of like fighting fire with fire. How if there's a big raging fire, a firefighter might go ahead of that fire, the projected path of the fire, and then burn down some forest so that when the fire gets there, it doesn't have anything to burn. Now, how does that apply to tension in the body? Well, if you tense and then release parts of your body, then you can learn to release tension over areas that normally don't have control over. It's kind of like when you get a massage and you have certain tension or muscle knots in your back. You can't usually just think, release all 7 muscle knots in my back, right? But what you can do is you can start tensing and releasing muscles. So to get started with this, you take a muscle group like your hand. So you clench your hand on the inhale. So you inhale, then you hold for about 3 seconds. And then as you exhale, you're going to release that tension. You can do that with the other hand. You can also start stacking muscle groups. So you can bend your wrist, you can squeeze your forearm on the inhale, hold for 3 seconds, exhale, release that tension. You can then add on the bicep as well, tensing everything there. Switch over to the other arm. Do this with your shoulders, with your back, with your abdominals, with your chest. Do this with your face. So you can scrunch, tense, release. You can do this with different parts of your leg, moving up from the toes all the way up to the thighs, to the glutes. And this is really powerful. It might sound strange, but tensing and then releasing, you'll feel much more relaxed afterwards. This is something you do behind the scenes, because once you do this, I'd say at least 10 times, you'll start noticing your body is so much more loose. You're gonna feel looser right after doing this exercise, but once you do this at least 10 times, it's like a passive effect in a video game where you don't even have to think about it anymore. Tension doesn't absorb into your body as fast, and then this is going to help your speaking, because if you're loose, naturally you're going to sound more powerful. Naturally, you're going to get less tense when you speak, and it will be more easy for you. Next up, let's talk about free association. And a lot of public speaking trainings, for example, Toastmasters, one of the challenges is that they give you a word and then you have to speak about it without preparation. Now, sometimes there's variations of this where you can think about it for 5 minutes and then you can collect your thoughts and go, but sometimes you don't have time to prepare. Sometimes you're at work or you're at school and you get asked an unexpected question, like in an interview, and you're expected to respond on the spot. When you're in those moments, you want to feel creative, you want to feel powerful. So how do you train that? What you can do first is you can practice kind of in the traditional way. You can go to a website like Random Word Generator and then click enter or click go, whatever's on the website, and then whenever that random word comes up, let's say it's platypus, you put a 2-minute timer and you have to start talking about a platypus as best as you can. Or maybe in the beginning you start with 1 minute. Or to challenge yourself, if that's too easy, you bring it up to 3 minutes. Another challenge you can do for this is you can do what I call sentence continuation from the last word. So say a random sentence and then continue from the end of that sentence to the next sentence. For example, I like to go hiking. Then I have to think, okay, the last word was hiking. Now I need to make the next sentence related to hiking. Hiking Mount Everest seems tough. Now you take that last word and then you connect that to the next. But what's also tough, so he doesn't have to literally start the sentence, just the concept. I didn't say tough something something. But what's also tough is getting work-life balance, managing different priorities, but still being excellent in everything I want to do. So that's a challenge. Now, this can get even more challenging, but I think also way more fun, which allows you to handle the challenge by making it musical. So how do we do that? Well, you think about a word first, and then try to rhyme it with different things. I recommend first starting out with one syllable. So let's think cat. Then you'll say words that rhyme with that. Mat, bat, rat. And then your next challenge is say sentences, but end them with the rhyming word. For example, I have a yoga mat. There is a cute cat. There is a scary rat. So there's that. That also rhymes. Then your challenge is to say those rhyming sentences, those last word rhyming sentences, to a beat. And this is where you can start delving into freestyle rap. Now, that might sound really wild. You might have never pictured yourself in a rapping situation, but this is an excellent way to train your creativity, to make you way more confident at public speaking. So let me just show you an example. Now remember, one syllable is easiest, and then when you start adding on more syllables, it gets harder. Another tip, when you rhyme certain words together, you don't have to exactly rhyme them sometimes. For example, you might think Hawaii. What rhymes with Hawaii? Come find me. Not exactly, right? But the last syllable ends. Sometimes you can have a multiple syllable word, and then if you end it on the last part, that can work. But sometimes it rhymes perfectly. Banana, Havana. But it's okay to have grace with yourself. It doesn't have to rhyme perfectly. And also on the top right of the slide, you'll see the words rhyme zone. So when you first start out this activity of rhyming, whether it's with music or without music, you might feel like you're quickly running out of words that rhyme with that word. That's why I recommend that site, Rhyme Zone. It's free. You can look up any word and it'll give you either exact rhymes like banana and Havana, or it'll give you near rhymes like Hawaii, come find me, those kind of things. And if you look at that before you do the rhyming exercise, it can help you come up with more words, get more creative, because once you move on from just rhyming one word like mat, bat, cat, then you're creating sentences that end with that word. And this can become a really fun skill that can also impress your friends and family. All right, so let's jump in. So you can go on YouTube and you can look up freestyle rap instrumental or backing track, anything like that, and then click on the video. And very importantly, they almost always have an intro and then the beat will change and then you can go. The intro is important because it allows you to collect your thoughts for a moment. You might even think about the next sentence that you're going to say, and then you can go. So you don't have to go immediately after clicking play. Let's check this out.
I put on my jewelry just to go to the bodega, and I keep it with me just so thought I'm feeling safer. Fendi on my body, but my feet is in bodega. Bitch, I'm getting money.
The beat just changed. Here we go. Let's do this. I'm sitting on a mat. By me is a big old cat. We got a big old bat, so if there's a rat, we ain't worried. All right, next up, 2 syllables. I got a bat, but I'm not Batman. Neither am I a bad man. But I started working out, so you might as well call me Tarzan. Finally, 3 syllables. I'm gonna use that Hawaii and come find me in this one. I'm based in Hawaii, always rocking a fresh white tee. Come here, you can find me. But them haters, they just wannabes. We put in the work, we're doing the public speaking exercises. But the haters, they just wannabes. Alright. Obviously, I'm not a rapping pro, but that was a off-the-cuff, fun demo of freestyling. You can do this by yourself. Maybe you'll never have the confidence to want to do this in front of others, but this can be a really great way to stretch your mind, get way better at improvising. And what I found is that when you get in a flow and start creating these rhymes, it can feel very freeing and empowering. And a lot of times, if I'm about to speak somewhere and I'm feeling a little tense, I'm feeling a little nervous, I'll just start rapping mentally, but if I can out loud, and I'll just start rhyming. It doesn't have to make sense. I just start saying, I'm gonna get in my flow, I'm gonna get in my zone, I'm gonna be flowing and going, and it might as well be snowing, you know? And then it's just like, I can do this. Try it. Can't knock it until you try it. This is actually one of my secret warm-ups before I give a public speech. that really helps loosen me up and get me also in not just a loose mode, but also sometimes you don't have to be all Mr. Serious all the time. Sometimes you can be funny, and sometimes when you're rhyming, it helps you get into a comedic space because rhymes can be silly, and that's okay. Finally, we have this slide called trauma release. All too often, when people think of trauma, they think of something really bad, like maybe they were kidnapped, or maybe they were in a war, and certainly those are trauma. But trauma can also be things that might not seem like a big deal, but happened to you when you were younger, and in your worldview were really traumatizing. For example, maybe you were a young girl or boy and you were in the grocery store, and you were with your mom, you were shopping, and all of a sudden you turn around and she's not there and you're scared. Oh my gosh, my protector, my parent is not there. So you're running around in the grocery store and you couldn't find her and you're crying, and then she finds you and it's okay. And then sure, the situation was resolved, but that trauma that you experienced can persist in you and then result in insecurities when you're older. The thing is, when we're kids, traumatizing things happen to us and we don't have the mental strategies to handle those traumas, process them, and then release them. Almost everyone has an insecurity, and almost always they stem from some sort of trauma. Public speaking continues to be one of humanity's greatest fears, and a big reason for that is because they have trauma, something related to communication. When they were younger, they spoke their mind about something, and then they were criticized sharply. So maybe they thought, oh no, like I should not speak up as much, or maybe I'm not actually that smart. And this, a lot of times, is not happening on the conscious. This is happening on the subconscious. When something stressful happens to you, even as an adult, and you go, I don't want to feel that emotion. I don't want to think about it. Let me just distract myself with something. Let me watch Netflix. Let me drink alcohol, do something to take my mind off of it. It's not going away. It's going to your subconscious, and it can manifest in insecurities. I know that's a little bit negative to think about, but what you can do if you feel like you're struggling from insecurities that are keeping you back from speaking. A lot of times, you know logically the next thing to do, because I just gave you 9 excellent exercises. But sometimes logically, you know how to become a better public speaker, but you feel like you're being held back. You feel like something's just pulling you behind, like you want to sabotage yourself, maybe your self-esteem, like really? Who are you? Who are you trying to be? You really think you can step up like this? Like when you hear those inner voices in your mind, you can actually work on these. You can work on reducing your insecurities through trauma release. If you want to get started with this, I highly recommend you search up trauma release. If you're already seeing a therapist, talk to your therapist about, hey, do you know any trauma release professionals? Trauma release services are becoming more popular. I personally had someone guide me through trauma release, which helped me improve tremendously my social anxiety, because I realized I had some traumatic incidents from middle school where I was embarrassed in front of like a lot of people. I once asked out a girl, I remember, in middle school, and it was so embarrassing, and I felt just really low self-esteem and worthless in that moment. And then I stuffed it down, right? And I thought about school and other thoughts. But I realized that this was a couple years ago. I needed to relive that. I needed to re-experience it from a mature adult perspective. And then I had to learn how to release that. And if you can find a trauma release coach, then they can guide you through releasing that. And I'll be real, that work is not always fun. Can be uncomfortable because literally you have to step back into your child mind and relive negative experiences. But oh my gosh, is it so worth it? Because it's like a weight is released from your shoulders, and all of a sudden you're naturally confident. Your insecurities fade away, and in a way it can feel like a superpower. Now, one of my missions in this channel, Your Life, Your Quest, is to help you level up in life. Like trauma release helps you level up mentally. Those traumas that have manifested as insecurities, level up mentally by releasing those from you. Help you master your body better. So a lot of people, when they think of leveling up physically, they think about going to the gym, but you can also release that tension through the DPR exercise we covered earlier. But then there's still so many other ways that you can level up mentally, physically, and also spiritually. If you're interested in that, I recommend you click the video on the screen where I talk about 8 types of meditation I've explored over 10 years. From this video, I hope you learned a lot about how to improve your public speaking. And if you have any questions or you got value out of this, drop a comment, drop a like. It means a lot to me, and have a great rest of day.